Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Allincrypto here, and today I have a rather interesting but a short and sweet video lined up for you. In yesterday's evening video, I made a video where I was at home and I was talking about kind of conceptualizing and normalizing the kind of price action that we've seen for many of the altcoins that we speak about on this channel. Now, that video is well worth the watch, but what we're going to be doing in this one is picking up where we left off in regards to that video. We're going to be looking at, again, at what we were looking at. So we're going to be looking at Ethereum in the prior bull market. Ethereum went from about $88 all the way to over $4,500. And there was multiple 35% plus. That was actually an okay pullback for Ethereum back then during that bull market. There was multiple what would be sort of termed, certainly if you're in the traditional world, severe pullbacks that occurred on the way to the 4.5K kind of top for Ethereum. We looked at a number of other chains like Cardano and what it did in the last bull market, BNB, and of course Solana. So we're going to be starting off there. And then I've spoken about this on a number of videos in regards to specific altcoins, but I'm going to be covering it more broadly. I'm going to be showing you guys the kind of structure that formed going into 2021's bull market and show you that actually a lot of the altcoins that we talk about on this channel are indeed there today, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to teach something called stage analysis. It breaks the market down into 4 stages, and it quite simply works. It was a method fathered by Stan Weinstein, and it's ultimately still as true today as it was back then. Markets typically go up and down in a similar fashion. The 4 stages, of course, are a base, an uptrend, a top, and a downtrend. You can kind of call them whatever you want. There's a little bit of Dow theory in there and a number of other things. But without further ado, because I did say this was going to be a short and sweet one, let's just sort of recap on what we were talking about yesterday. And what we were looking at yesterday was, or what we were trying to do, I should say, yesterday, was really conceptualize and normalize what took place for the cryptocurrency market over the weekend. And a good way for me to do that is look at how things have historically taken place in a bull market, how altcoins have historically acted in a bull market. This is why we encourage nobody. We don't give financial advice on this channel, but one bit of advice I absolutely will give is not to trade leverage when you're into the cryptocurrency space. I know personally people that got wrecked this weekend. Friday was a nightmare. Saturday was like the nail in the coffin for them. And I've heard loads of stories about people demolishing the net worth that they had built up in the crypto space, some of them since 2017. It's why we like to keep retail. I'm retail as well. I'm not an institutional trader. On the side of spot long, because we still have all the crypto that we had pre the weekend and the kind of events that took place. But what we were looking at yesterday was Ethereum. You can see Ethereum's low was around about $88-ish, $89-ish. This is where I was actually accumulating Ethereum. I've got all the receipts for it. You know, I'm tried and tested in these markets. And it's why we created this channel, to kind of help people do well out of them and kind of understand what's going on with them. But you can see you had multiple 35% pullback's actually a good one. And there was many that were actually higher than this, 60%, so on and so forth. And it very much looks like the kind of pullbacks that we saw for many of the altcoins over the weekend. And I believe your altcoins are essentially just here, and they have this still to come. The bulk of the bull market, in my opinion, is still ready to kick off. I don't even think we've seen an alt season. BTC DOM hasn't rolled yet. We do have a number of other charts. We do think that ETH BTC and ETH dominance chart is going to come into play, and it's going to really gain ground against Bitcoin. That's likely going to be on the back of fundamental news in regards to an ETF. But we didn't just look at ETH USD. And this had a larger market cap back then than many of the altcoins like HBAR and some of the ones we're going to come on to in just a second have today. We also looked at the likes of Cardano. So this was another altcoin that we did spectacularly off, accumulating in the cents, and it got all the way to $3. Look at the kind of pullbacks that you saw here. This one looks very similar to Hedera or some of the others. ICP is definitely one of the stronger cryptocurrencies. I'm convinced about that at this point, given its sort of price action that we've seen. But we'll bring all that into focus shortly. So you can see, again, Cardano, multiple pullbacks. BNB, again, multiple severe pullbacks. And, of course, we had Sol USD or Solana. And we won't use the Coinbase chart because I don't think we'll have the price action on there. But you can see Solana, again, went from the cents all the way, thanks to Sam Bankman-Fried, to $271. And there were severe pullbacks along the way. people would have been down in the dumps about each and every one of these, but they would have really failed to understand the broader trend, which is what I believe is important to get right as a retail cryptocurrency investor and be on the right side of it. Don't try and be too smart and ignore these ding-dongs that try and sell you indicators or use this. It's got a, you know, if things were as simple as using an indicator to make money in the markets, everybody would have done it by now. It doesn't work like that. This is why we champion price analysis. So being a technical analyzer, i.e. analyzing the charts and having a simple method. You don't need to overcomplicate things. And if we look at kind of this, I think this really normalizes what we sort of saw. But we did cover that in yesterday's video. What I want to do to also normalize what we saw is actually show you guys what took place. And we'll start off with Ethereum actually. With the likes of Ethereum when it based in 2018, 19, and obviously really ultimately based with the March 2020 crash, and show you where something like Hedera and some of the other altcoins are that we talk about today. So if we look at Ethereum, again, markets typically go up and down in a very similar fashion. We've got the 30 weekly moving average here, which we like to use for stage analysis. And you can see the kind of similarities between these charts here. I mean, you really can see the similarities between them. Notice how Hedera is supporting around the 30 weekly moving average. We do think it will bounce off this. And was this the final flush out before you see it do a similar thing to what Ethereum did in the last cycle? The pullbacks are very much in line, and I do think that is potentially on the cards. Let's look at a number of others that we talk about. So ICP, I've got to admit, has been particularly strong. If we throw ICP on there, I mean, this looks fantastic. This looks a lot more like Cardano and what it did. You know, you can see you sort of broke out into your stage 2 here on volume. And you can see it's, you know, pulling back, consolidating, but really ready. I think this is just a lot of accumulation taking place. It's not distribution, otherwise it would be getting dumped. I think it's more accumulation. And ultimately, I do think this is going to lead to further upside. So this very much looks like a bottoming market. If you look at something, let's pull another one up that we talk about. For example, like Chainlink. Chainlink, a bit of a pariah. But it's done nothing kind of out of the ordinary. We look at something like DART. You can see what we're looking at here. So on and so forth. You know, there's a number of altcoins that we could speak and speculate on. Of course, Cardano. And then if we take a look at what Cardano did in the last cycle, HBAR, very similar, supporting around that 30 weekly moving average. Again, similar thing today. You didn't actually invalidate by putting a close in below the low. We're using the weekly time frame here. You're sort of supporting where you'd expect us to find support. You look at something like ADA. You can see history really is just repeating. If we look at something like ICP, again, ICP, I would say out of this pack is probably from a technical perspective, or certainly from based on what the charts are doing, the stronger. Because it hasn't pulled back or retraced as deep. And then if we look at something, you know, there's lots that we can look at. We do talk about lots of altcoins that we don't really share publicly because we want to kind of reserve them for the Patreon. Pretty small speculative altcoins that I wouldn't really feel too comfortable talking about publicly as is. Look at something like Cardano. History very much repeating. And are we here? And is there this real big impulsive move to come on the back end of all this? I actually think there's a good chance there is. You know, our broader trend for the markets from a macro perspective, we spoke about it earlier today, is that things are going to continue to go up on the devaluation of the fiat systems. And crypto, so stocks are going to be a real mover in that. Gold is going to be moving that. Bitcoin's in an uptrend against those. And actually, I do believe we are coming to a stage where altcoins will actually outperform Bitcoin. We could have absolutely played the Bitcoin dominance chart or Bitcoin dominance way better than we did. We were some of the only people saying 15, 16K, we're getting back into the markets here, start of 2023. But we're majority altcoins because we ultimately expect them to do better than Bitcoin in the longer run. But you can see what I'm kind of showing people here. Even if we bring something like Filecoin up, we don't really speak about it that publicly on the channel. Obviously, Near is doing spectacularly. There's a real AI kind of hype going on with Near more broadly. We look at something like Total 3. You know, you can see really history just repeating. And on the topic of the totals, Total 2 is one of our favorite charts. We do think this is essentially setting up as a right shoulder. We were expecting a pullback here. We're getting it. We're living through it. Altcoins are getting thrown around in the manner that altcoins do, going back to what we said at the start of the video in a bull market, and ultimately are looking very similarly to what they did going into the epic bull run of 2021. I think history is very much repeating, and I think it's important to have that kind of a higher up view of the markets when you're approaching crypto, because nobody enjoys, including myself, although we have been buying more crypto. We're really looking the AI kind of deep in sector at the moment. Join the Patreon to find out what we're buying and unlock my portfolio. But nobody enjoys a 30% pullback. But it's part and parcel of this game. And it is a game. You know, this is crypto. This is how it moves. If you think you're smart enough to sell every top and buy every bottom, be my guest. Do that. I think the more important thing is to understand the broader trend. It's the easier thing, and it's the thing that works. Be on the right side of it and be able to ride the volatility and make your money in the sitting. Be that person that bought Ethereum in the $100 range and held it into, you know, you're not going to perfectly sell the top of the 4,000s and so on and so forth. Don't be that guy that was buying it at 100, sold it at 200, thinking it was going to pull back, only for it to go to 2, and then, you know, you're kind of out of the game. Or even worse, you know, selling it at the wrong, whatever. So that's really all I've got for you guys. Just a bit of a continuation in regards to yesterday's video. Again, normalizing and conceptualizing everything. We've got this, you know, just stay on the right side of the broader trend, which I do think is an uptrend. I think there's a bump in the road right now that markets are going through. We speak about this a lot on our daily market updates. And on that note, I'm really going to love and leave you. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful Thursday, wherever you are, whatever it is you're doing. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you very much.